I spent years building something that I could never truly own, and I did it on purpose. Hi, I wanted to put a face on the channel because for basically the past 5 years that I've been, releasing content, I never put my face on it. And I think that for me right now is a different time, and I want to make a switch. When we're doing new project, I want to take you guys behind the scene and show you how we make the films that we make. And I wanted to tell you my story so that you can know a bit more about myself and where my love for the SCP Foundation comes from. And also, I am moving on from the SCP Foundation, but I have a bunch of surprises for you about the new SCP content that we've been working on, so watch the video to see some previews. Right now, I am back to my small town in northern Italy, up in the mountains where everything started. It was such an important part of my childhood and probably what sent me out to become a filmmaker when I was little. When we used to go skiing, me and my father, up the mountains, while we were on the ski lift, my father used to tell me all these stories and all these legends about our town and the monsters and the strange things that happen in our town. And I think that was a very formative moment for me, where I love to hear the stories, and I think I try to visualize the story, and then moving forward, when we were 12, me and my cousin Jack, we picked up this VHS camera, and I think we saw some YouTube videos or maybe the Blair Witch Project somewhere, and we have a cottage up in the mountains where we spent most of our childhood. There's this massive pine forest behind it, and we went up and put down a shovel, we stick it into the ground, and then we put on top almost like a coat with a hoodie, and it looked like a man if you looked at it from far away. And then we picked up the camera, stand 50 meters away, and then film it and zoom in and try to make it look like someone was in the forest, and then pretend to be scared and run away. And then we would show the video to the kids that were there for our family party, making them think that there was someone in the woods that were hunting us. And so we always had this fascination with not only creating and telling stories, but also horror stories, probably because our town is so full of all those legends. And then growing up, we took that passion forward by doing a web series. I think it was 2012. At the time, they were very popular in Italy, so we decided to make our own, again drawing from the history of our town, from the legends of our town. We create a story. It's very bad. I think you can see it online. I think we still have it up, and it's very bad, and I was acting in it, and my cousin was acting in it. It's horrible, but it was something that made me realize that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I moved to Australia, and then 1 year became 8, but it was great, and it changed my life. When I got to Australia, I started connecting with film people. I used to go on film sets and work for free just to learn the craft and learn what to do. I used to work in a restaurant, and basically I used to save all the tips, and I used to take home the stuffed meal to save on food as well. I used to live with 3 people. I saved up enough money, and I bought my first camera, which was a Red Scarlet camera. It was a very expensive camera. It was $20,000 Australian at the time. And buying my first camera made me feel like I was, one step closer to being a DP and making films. And so I started using the camera, and I remember one time I went on set and I was looking at this DP, and he was hyper technical. He was talking to people, to the gaffer, to the people who managed the light, and telling them what to do. And I was like, yeah, I do not want to do that. I don't care. From then I decided, okay, so probably what I want to be is a director. I want to tell my own stories, and I want to be able to work with actors. I always been drawn to horror and mysteries and thrillers. When I was 14, there was this traveling book fair that used to come to my town. And at the time, there was not a lot of internet. You couldn't really, browse online, research books, or buy books online. And they had this massive bookstore that they put up in the plaza. And I used to walk in and just wander through it, being very attracted to the covers. One of the authors that I discovered, because the cover were so cool, was Lovecraft. you know, because they tend to make the covers very horror-ish, and they have very cool designs. So I started reading Lovecraft when I was very young, and I loved it. And so when I discovered the SCP Foundation, it kind of like clicked. The first time that I landed on the SCP website, I was like, wait a second, is this fucking thing real? Because it very much looked like a CIA, or government website. Then I, slowly discovered that obviously it's all fake, and it's like a community project. And I read some of the stories and I fell in love completely. I must have found like a library full of stories that you can transform into movies. And I was like, this is incredible. I want to be a part of this. Okay, so there's already an audience that wants to see all these stories, just needs a filmmaker to create a bunch of these stories for this audience that love this universe. And so I decided to invest a lot of my own, time and money to create content for the SCP Foundation. And so I decided to do 2 short films from DJ Cactus because I love his writing, and the SCP were 2951, 10,000 Years, and 2812, Echoes of Yesterday. So after testing these 2 SCP films, I was like, okay, I love this work. What can I do that people from the SCP Foundation love, that the community loves? And I stumbled upon the reason of Antimemetics division. I remember reading the article for the first time, and I was like, this is fucked up. It's amazing. And it's also one of my favorite things about the reason of Antimemetics division is that it feels like a story, because it is a story. It's a book, and it's written in a way that it's self-conclusive, and it works. And it's written by one author, which is Quantum. At the time, it was just after COVID, and so I was able to save up a bunch of money and decided to go, okay, now I have this money saved up. I want to invest in myself. I want to invest in my dream to be a filmmaker, to be a director. I'm going to spend the money to make this big project that I want to do for the SCP community. So I decided to suck my own money into it because I believed it. Antimemetics was kind of expensive in a way. We spent 23,000 Australian dollars, 10,000 US, and we are going to break down more about Antimemetics in a separate video, but it was incredible to do. I think I had a blast making that one, and it very much felt like I was on the right track. And a month after, we did I Do Not Recognize the Bodies in the Water. Almost, they weren't back to back, but they were very, very close. This is because I decided at the time to go back to Italy because something clicked into me. I wanted to make movies for the rest of my life, and so I realized that I could make movies from anywhere in the world. It's been a very tough journey from one side because you are back to the place where you started, but it's full of opportunity and possibilities on the other hand because you have all these chances to build more and make more movies. Since I've been back, I made 3 SCP project. 1 is out, it's the Switch, and then we have 2 more miniseries coming out. 1 is found footage analog horror miniseries, and the other one is a more traditional SCP miniseries that we shot this winter, which looks phenomenal, that I can't wait to show you. But most likely I'm going to move on with something else, and the reason why is the best thing about the SCP Foundation, which is the Creative Commons license that allows everybody to work on it and make it this incredible collaborative project. It's also its weakness because you can't own the IP. If you want to make a full-time career out of filmmaking, you need to start owning your own films and your own product. If I keep making SCP content, I am not the owner of that content. And so I decided to move on and build my own original IP. This is going to be something that's very similar with the SCP Foundation, very similar to the video game Control, which I love. Almost like the same DNA, but with a tactical horror edge. On the same line of the SCP Foundation, to keep creating content for people that already love these kind of like mystery horror thrillers. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not really abandoning you to do something else. I just want to have the opportunity to seek out investors, to do things more on a higher level that allows me to move forward, creating better content and make this a career. I'm going to start a production video diary where I'm going to share with you everything that I'm doing to build this world, and I would love to build it with you and have suggestions. So it's something that we can do together, and I would love for you to be a part of. Okay, so the plan moving on for the channel is to talk to you guys more, show you behind the scenes. We have Antimemetics behind the scenes video coming up. I'm going to do I do not recognize the bodies in the water behind the scene, explain you how we did the films. I have been getting a lot of messages about how I do my projects, how I produce them, how I film them, and so I will love to pay it forward and making more videos about directing, about filmmaking, and how to actually create films. If when I was 14 or 15 I could watch someone going through this process, it probably would have helped me a ton. Since I've been back home, what I realized that what I've been trying to do all my life is just going on adventures with my friends, making movies and creating stuff for people to enjoy and to watch it. And I want you guys to be a part of this.